They laughed at her before she ever spoke a word. Not the kind of laughter that explodes, but the kind that slices quietly, controlled, polished, and cruel enough to pretend it was harmless. Neela Brooks stood frozen at the edge of a glittering ballroom, her cleaning uniform heavy against her skin, her hands shaking around a mop while a room full of powerful people decided she did not belong. When a famous millionaire designer raised his glass and turned her existence into a joke, something inside her cracked, but it did not break. Shame burned her throat, anger tightened her chest, and yet she chose silence, knowing that every eye was waiting for her to fail, to shrink, to disappear. She walked away carrying a humiliation no one else would remember and a promise no one else could see. Stay with me, because the next time she walks into that same room, she will not be invisible. And what happens then will leave everyone in shock. The laughter hit first, not loud, worse, polite, controlled, the kind of laughter that knew it was safe. Neela Brooks stood at the edge of the ballroom of the Lakeshore Grand Hotel, one hand gripping her mop handle like it might keep her upright. Crystal chandeliers floated above her like distant stars. Men in tailored suits, women wrapped in silk and perfume, everyone glowing under lights meant for people who belonged here. She did not. She knew that before he said a word. She knew it by the way conversations slowed when she passed. By the way eyes skimmed over her uniform and stopped at her skin. By the way no one ever said, "Excuse me," when she cleaned around their feet. Then Evan Whitmore raised his glass. "If you can fit into that red dress," he said, smiling as if he were offering a joke instead of a blade, "I'll marry you on the spot." The room froze for half a second, just long enough for the meaning to land, then erupted. Laughter bounced off marble walls. Phones lifted. Someone whistled. The red dress stood at the center of the room, suspended on a glass mannequin like a challenge. Imported silk, hand-stitched detailing, the crown jewel of the Midwest Fashion Gala. Evan Whitmore watched Neela the way people watched a dare they were sure would fail. She didn't look at him, not because she was afraid, but because she refused to give him the satisfaction. Neela lowered her eyes to the polished floor and said nothing. That somehow made it worse. "Come on," Evan added lightly. "Don't be shy." She felt it then, the weight behind the joke. Not just class, not just money, something older, something sharper. The unspoken rule that said a black woman in a janitor's uniform was allowed to clean the room, but not exist inside it. Neela tightened her grip on the mop. Her chest burned, her ears rang, and still, she said nothing. She turned and walked away, the laughter chasing her all the way through the service doors. In the hallway, away from the lights, her breath finally broke. Not into tears, into something quieter, something harder. A promise. The south side of Chicago didn't glow like the hotel ballroom. It hummed. Sirens in the distance. Neon lights buzzing over corner stores. The sound of someone arguing 3 floors down. Nyla's apartment was small, but it was clean. Loretta Brooks was already awake when Neela came in, sitting at the kitchen table with a mug of reheated coffee and worry written into every line of her face. "Another late night?" her mother asked. Neela nodded, hanging her uniform on the back of a chair. Her hands were shaking. Loretta noticed. "You okay, baby?" "I'm fine." It was a lie, but not the kind that needed correcting. The TV flickered in the background. A fashion correspondent smiled too brightly as Evan Whitmore's face filled the screen. "Tonight's Midwest Fashion Gala was a stunning success," the woman said. "Whitmore's red gown is already being called iconic." The camera cut to the dress. The same one. Loretta glanced at Neela, then back at the screen. "You were there, weren't you?" Neela reached over and turned the TV off. "One day," she said quietly, more to herself than to her mother, "I'll wear something like that." Loretta studied her daughter's face. Not anger, not jealousy, resolve. The next morning, Neela almost didn't go to work. Almost. But rent didn't care about pride, and dignity didn't pay utility bills. So she put on her uniform and took the bus downtown with people who carried their exhaustion like a second skin. At the hotel, the ballroom still smelled like champagne and money. Empty glasses, wilted roses. Proof that the night before had happened, and that no one else would remember it the way she did. Claire Holloway, Evan's assistant, passed by with a clipboard. "That was rough last night," Claire said, not unkindly. "If I were you, I'd keep my head down." Nyla looked up. "I always do." Claire hesitated, then added, "He doesn't like distractions." Distractions. Nyla went back to mopping. That evening, instead of heading home, she stopped in front of Iron Pulse Community Gym. The windows were fogged. Inside, bodies moved, sweating, straining, refusing to quit. A sign on the door read, "First class free." Nyla pushed it open. Denise Harper looked her up and down without judgment. "You serious?" Denise asked. "Yes." "Then don't miss a day." Nyla didn't. The weeks that followed were brutal. Her muscles screamed. Her feet ached. She worked double shifts, then dragged herself to the gym, then home again. Loretta watched in silence, cooking soup, folding laundry, never asking questions. Slowly, something changed. Not just her body. The way Nyla stood, the way she met her own eyes in the mirror, the way she stopped shrinking when people looked at her. She taped a piece of paper above her sink. One word, promise, not for him, for me. One morning, as Neela scrubbed the lobby floor, a pair of polished shoes stopped inches from her hands. She looked up. Evan Whitmore. He didn't recognize her. That hurt more than the joke. He walked past, expensive cologne trailing behind him, already talking into his phone about deadlines and press. To him, she was invisible again. But Neela felt something settle in her chest. Not rage, clarity. A week later, on her way home from the gym, she noticed a sign taped to a storefront window. Keen Atelier, assistant needed, no experience required. Inside, fabric spilled over tables like color made solid. Martha Keene watched Nyla carefully as she spoke. "I learned some sewing from my grandmother," Nyla said honestly. Martha nodded. "I'm not looking for models," she said. "I'm looking for hands that care." Nyla started that day. For the first time in years, she went home without smelling like chemicals. She touched silk instead of a mop handle. Each stitch felt like a quiet rebellion. She didn't know it yet, but she was already walking back toward that red dress, on her own terms. This story isn't just about Nyla. It's about moments we've all seen, or lived through, or ignored. Should people in power be held accountable for words they claim were just jokes? Yes or no? Your answers matter because this story is far from over. The first thing Nyla Brooks learned at Keen Atelier was that fabric remembers hands. Silk responded differently to impatience. Wool resisted if rushed. Satin betrayed every mistake. Martha Keene noticed everything, said little, and corrected with a glance that carried more weight than a lecture. Nyla worked after her hotel shifts at first, arriving tired but focused, fingers steady even when her body wasn't. She stitched hems, reinforced seams, sorted beads into glass jars. When the shop closed at night, she stayed behind to practice. The hum of machines like a heartbeat she could finally trust. Wordless things changed. Customers stopped assuming she was there to clean. They asked her opinion. They listened. Then the order came in. Martha read the email twice, lips pressed thin. "We've been contracted for finishing work," she said. "High profile, tight deadline." Nyla glanced at the signature and felt the air leave her lungs. Whitmore Collective, Evan Whitmore. The room didn't spin, it sharpened. Every sound became precise. The scissors snipped once, the iron hissed. Nyla set her jaw. "You don't have to take it," Martha said carefully. "I do," Neela replied, "and I want to." The boxes arrived the next day, luxury fabrics, sketches drawn with confident lines, arrogance disguised as minimalism. Nyla recognized the style immediately. Clean silhouettes, cold beauty, pieces that impressed without ever inviting you closer. She worked like she had something to prove, but not to him, to herself. Late one night, she opened a garment bag and froze. Red silk, not the same dress, a new iteration, but the color carried memory like a bruise. Nyla laid it flat, fingertips hovering. She didn't flinch. She studied the seams, the balance, the intention behind every cut. She made it better. She didn't add excess. She corrected tension, softened a shoulder, allowed movement where stiffness had been mistaken for power. When she finished, the dress breathed. The email came 2 days later. Outstanding craftsmanship. Please extend my thanks to your assistant, Nyla Brooks. She stared at her name on the screen. Not pride, release. Across the city, Evan Whitmore read the same message with irritation he didn't understand. Sales projections were slipping. Investors were restless. For the first time in years, his charm felt thin. He poured another drink and scrolled through photos from the upcoming show. The red gown paused him. Who worked on this? He asked. Keen Atelier, Claire Holloway replied. One of their assistants, Nyla Brooks. The name struck him sideways. Memory surged. Laughter, glass raised. A woman with dark skin and quiet eyes standing at the edge of his world. He set the phone down too hard. That night, Evan slept poorly. The joke he'd told replayed in his head without the room's laughter to hide behind it. He tried to dismiss it. People were too sensitive. He'd meant nothing by it, but he remembered her silence and how it had unsettled him. Martha closed the shop early the day the invitation arrived. Gold lettering, heavy stock. We've been invited to the Midwest Fashion Gala, she said, as collaborators. Nyla didn't speak. And, Martha added, watching her carefully, I want you there with me. The room felt smaller. That's his event, Nyla said. I know. That night, Nyla opened the metal box under her bed. Savings, overtime, every extra shift. She pulled out a folded page, measurements, hers. She didn't copy his dress. She created her own. A deeper red, a cleaner line, strength without armor. Every stitch answered a question she'd been asked without words her entire life. Do you belong here? The gala night arrived wrapped in rain and flashbulbs. The Lakeshore Grand Hotel glittered again, exactly as it had before. Evan moved through the crowd with a practiced smile, hiding the panic pressing against his ribs. Backstage, Nyla stood still while Martha adjusted the final seam. Don't look for him, Martha said softly. I'm not, Nyla replied. She wasn't lying. The lights dimmed. Music rose. Models stepped onto glass with careful precision. Applause followed each exit like a reflex. Then the host announced the final piece. The curtain opened. Nyla stepped forward. The room inhaled as one. She walked with calm authority, the red dress alive against her skin. Cameras flashed too late. Whispers raced. Evan felt his smile crack before he could stop it. That was her, the woman from the joke, but not the woman he remembered. She reached the end of the runway and stopped. No pose, no performance, just presence. Applause began, uncertain, then undeniable. Evan's chest tightened. The dress wasn't his. The moment wasn't his. For the first time, the spotlight felt like exposure. Backstage, reporters murmured, "Who is she? That's not in the collection. She's stunning." Evan forced himself forward. "Our special guest," he said, voice steady enough to fool some of them. "A collaborator." Nyla met his eyes. "I'm here to keep a promise," she said quietly, "to myself." The words landed harder than any accusation. Phones lifted. Someone whispered what he'd said months ago. The room shifted. Power changed shape. Nyla turned and walked away. The applause followed her, not him. Later, in a quieter hall, Evan found her. "I need to talk to you," he said. Nyla looked at him with a calm that scared him. "I don't need anything from you. I owe you an apology." She considered him. "Apologies aren't endings," she said. "They're beginnings, if you do something with them." He swallowed. "Tell me how." "Listen," Nyla said, "then act." She left him there with the noise of the gala fading into something smaller. His own thoughts. For the first time, Evan Whitmore understood that redemption wasn't a stage. It was work, and Nyla Brooks had already done hers. The morning after the gala felt quieter than Nyla expected. Chicago moved the way it always had. Buses groaning, coffee shops opening, people rushing to places they couldn't afford to be late to. But something inside her had shifted. Not excitement, not relief. Peace. She stood in the small kitchen of her apartment, the red dress folded carefully on the table. Loretta Brooks watched her daughter in silence, then reached out and touched the fabric with gentle fingers. "You didn't just wear that dress," her mother said softly. "You walked through something." Nyla smiled. "I left it there." The phone began to ring before noon, then again and again. Fashion blogs, independent designers, community groups, people who had seen the video not as spectacle, but as truth. She didn't answer most of them. At Keen Atelier, Martha locked the door early and poured coffee into mismatched mugs. "You don't owe anyone access," she said. "Not even now." "I know," Nala replied, "but there's something I do want to do." Across the city, Evan Whitmore sat alone in his studio, staring at sketches that suddenly felt hollow. For years, he had believed that talent excused arrogance, that influence softened harm. He was wrong. He hadn't slept. He kept hearing Nyla's words. Apologies aren't endings. They're beginnings if you do something with them. So he did. The press conference wasn't flashy. No music, no runway. Just a small stage, folding chairs, and a room full of people who didn't trust him and had no reason to. "I'm here to acknowledge harm," Evan said, voice unsteady but honest. "I used my power carelessly. I humiliated a woman whose dignity should never have been questioned." Murmurs rippled through the room. "I can't erase what I said," he continued, "but I can change what I do." He announced scholarships for Black and underrepresented designers, paid apprenticeships, access to materials, runway space not as charity, but as recognition. Some believed him, some didn't. That was fine. Accountability didn't require applause. Weeks later, Nyla stood in a bright community hall at Navy Pier, sunlight pouring through tall windows. Tables lined the walls, covered in sketches and half-finished garments. Young designers buzzed with nervous energy. She adjusted a mannequin for a teenage girl whose hands shook with excitement. "You see the seam?" Neela said gently. "It holds everything together, not because it's fancy, but because it's honest." The girl nodded, eyes shining. Evan arrived quietly, no entourage, no cameras. He stayed near the back, observing, listening. When Nyla finally noticed him, he didn't approach. She did. "You kept your word," she said. "So did you," he replied. They stood there, not reconciled, not friends, but something cleaner than resentment had replaced the old wound. "I don't need you to like me," Evan said. "I just wanted to say thank you for stopping me." Nyla considered him. "Don't thank me," she said. "Thank the people you listen to next." She turned back to her students. That night, Nyla walked home under streetlights that felt warmer somehow. She passed a store window and caught her reflection. No uniform, no armor, just herself. She smiled. The red dress no longer felt like a symbol of pain. It had become a marker of distance traveled. Not from him, from who she once believed she was allowed to be. Months later, the video still circulated. Comment sections filled with stories, some angry, some healing, many overdue. People argued. People learned. Some changed their minds. And Nyla kept working, not for fame, for dignity. For the quiet belief that when one person refuses to shrink, it creates space for others to stand. Before you go, let me ask you, how did this story make you feel? Do you think Nyla's choice to respond with strength instead of revenge was the right one? Did this story change the way you think about jokes and power? If this story moved you, comment 111 below so we know you stayed until the end. Tell us which country you're watching from. We read every comment. And if you believe stories like this matter, share this video so more people can see it. Because dignity doesn't need permission, and sometimes one story is enough to remind us of that.